Hey guys, welcome back to the channel. This is part 25 of What If Naruto Was the Red X. If you guys enjoy this what if and want to see part 26 of it, comment down below and let me know. And go ahead and check out other what ifs in the channel. Before we start, please do support for more awesome content. Don't forget to subscribe and leave a like, and also share this video with your friends. So let's start this video. Ravager smirked as she jumped from building to building with practiced ease, Naruto following hot on her tail. And he's catching up. She noted to herself before flipping onto another building and slid to a halt, Naruto landing in a crouch, cloak billowing out before falling down around his body. She has above human level speed, about the same as a normal shinobi, which is odd, to say the least. Naruto thought to himself while staring at the strange white-haired girl as she smirked towards him. You have truly marvelous skills, Mr. Uzumaki. Ravager noted while standing up, and Naruto did the same, the single eye hole of his mask pointed towards her. But let's see just how skilled you really are, shall we? She then quipped, and Naruto narrowed his eyes before lunging at Ravager, swinging his sword at the girl. Seeing a vision of the blonde teen cutting her head off, Ravager quickly ducked the attack, before flipping back, and threw several shuriken at the blonde. Blinking, Naruto used the Kusanagi to block the oncoming shuriken, before throwing 5 of his own. Ravager saw them coming, and effortlessly moved in the air to evade them before landing in a low crouch. Pulling a disc from her side, she threw it straight at Naruto, the blonde-haired teen jumping over it. The disc however exploded behind him, knocking him forward before slamming a hand into the ground as he pushed himself to his feet. What's the matter, Mr. Uzumaki? Ravager taunted with a mocking smirk, Naruto narrowing his eyes onto the girl. Running out of steam. She finished while quickly unsheathing her twin katana from her back, and then took a stance. Scoffing at the accusation, Naruto narrowed his eyes on the girl's stance, noting she didn't actually have much of a stance. This was one he'd use, before he made his style. You were never trained to actually use 2 swords, were you? He questioned the girl flatly, and she tilted her head for a moment before smirking. That easy to tell? No, my father only taught me to wield the one, but I so enjoy using 2. She replied simply, and Naruto scoffed, wondering what she was thinking by taking him on with 2 swords, when she had no idea how she was supposed to wield them correctly. He didn't either, mind you, but he at least knew how to effectively. Yes, it's a tell, and it makes you look a little foolish for doing so. He stated, and Ravager frowned slightly before shrugging her shoulders. Naruto's mental gears were turning and churning as he looked at this odd girl. Regardless of her having no idea how to wield both swords right, she has her weight distributed evenly, most likely to be able to evade. Her arms are being held close to herself for the same purpose. She must know she can't block Kusanagi's blade. This should be interesting. Naruto thought to himself before lunging forward, Ravager ducking back to evade a swing. Stopping with one foot, the one-eyed girl then thrust both her swords at Naruto, then blonde twisting around those, and threw a punch at the girl's face. Smirking, Ravager dropped one sword, and caught the fist, before pushing him back. Lifting up a foot, she then kicked her sword up and caught it before twisting into another stance. Sliding back, Naruto frowned towards Ravager. The girl was strong, and very intriguing. Now that was very impressive, enhanced reflexes and strength added onto her knowledge. Naruto thought to himself before twirling the Kusanagi into a backhanded grip. Swinging his arm, he felt the wind spire loud, Ravager flipping up onto the side of a small water tower, before quickly flipping off of it. Landing in a crouch as the water tower fell from the attack, taking out its support beams, Ravager gave an amused smirk to the blonde-haired ex-shinobi. Naruto couldn't help a frown at seeing this. The girl had evaded his attack effortlessly, and what's more, it was almost like she was ready for it to come at her. Her agility is above average as well. She's very dangerous, and it's almost like she sees my attacks before I use them. Naruto thought to himself before crouching down into another stance. Alright, physically, she's no stronger, faster, or more agile than any other shinobi from my world. However, that does make her much tougher than a normal human for the fact she can keep up with me. However, her reflexes are on par with a Sharingan user, and she seems to enjoy battle to startling extent, given how much she's been grinning. Naruto thought to himself while Ravager lunged forward, Naruto evading several quick slashes and thrusts from the girl and her blades. Even more surprising is the way she carries herself. She's moving like a fully trained ninja. Her musculature points to one as well. Not a medical nin like Sakura, Shizune, or Tsunade. Not a Hyuga, her muscles are far too developed for one of them, since they focus more on being limber and fast, not strong like her. Not like Ino either, since Ino focuses mostly on her mental jutsu. No wait, it's like Tenten. Yes, her body has the exact identical musculature as Tenten, a weapons user who's also got taijutsu down as well. Naruto thought to himself and mentally thought of a way to counter Tenten. All he could come up with was his wind jutsu, but even that had proven itself to be less than effective against this girl. But that's what's weird, Tenten had trouble with wind jutsu because of how it works. Wind jutsu usually leave most weapons users in the dust because of its speed, and its ability to hit from long ranges. This girl, however, anticipated one, almost like she knew it was coming. But let's see how she does against a few more. Naruto mused to himself as he quickly swung his blade, an arc of wind flying towards her. Smirking, Ravager flipped over it and then stepped to the side to evade another, before spinning into a flip to dodge two more, landing on all fours in a low crouch, sword still in hand. Yes, wind jutsu are officially useless against her. Naruto noted and then considered using lightning jutsu, but that wouldn't be prudent, since he needed both hands to form seals to use most of his lightning jutsu. Sure, he could always mix a little wind and lightning together, giving the lightning a path, so he could throw it like he did with Harley and Ivy, but he somehow guessed she dodged that as well. Oh well, looks like I'm going to have to do this the hard way. Naruto mused as he then lunged forward and swung Kusanagi at Ravager, the girl merely leaning back before placing her hands on the ground to evade it. Smirking, the girl then twisted into a spin, thus also swinging her swords up at Naruto. Flipping back to evade the attack, Naruto narrowed his eyes on the girl as she landed on her feet and smirked at him. Growling in his throat at this, Naruto twirled the Kusanagi in his hand before stabbing it forward, the blade lengthening towards Ravager, who effortlessly moved her head just far enough to evade it. Blinking in surprise, Naruto frowned deeply, before recalling the sword's blade, while Ravager stood up, still smirking at him, as if she was enjoying this. "What the hell are you?" Naruto questioned while holding Kusanagi to the side, the sword forming into a snake before sinking into his right arm. Looking on in intrigue, Ravager made a note to find out what that sword was from the Konoha Inn, before she then smirked towards Naruto. The blonde then removed his cloak before throwing it into the air and pulled out a scroll, forming several seals. He then slammed his hand into the cloak and scroll at the same time, sealing it into it in one motion, rolling the scroll up. Naruto then placed it back into his belt while narrowing his eyes on her. "I'm a metahuman, of course," Ravager replied, and Naruto frowned darkly, while pulling a pair of kunai from his belt. "Oh really? Then what's your superpower?" Naruto questioned, and Ravager chuckled in her throat while taking a stance with her two swords. "Oh that? It's powers, as in plural, and I'm certain someone of your intelligence can already guess most of them," Ravager replied, and Naruto mentally nodded his head while remaining stoic on the outside. "But the one I believe that you're so intrigued with is one of my personal favorites. I have what your little raven would call precognitive senses, so I can see into the immediate future and block, dodge, or counter any attacks sent at me accordingly," Ravager explained with an amused grin, and Naruto grimaced. Now that was a superpower that he was wishing didn't exist. While the Sharingan could trick you into thinking its wielder could see into the immediate future, Rose actually could. That explains some things. 1. Most attacks would be useless against her, because she'd see them coming, and do as she said, evade, block, or counter. It made the fight more interesting, sure, but how do you fight someone who knows what you're going to do before you even do it? Shaking his head, Naruto knew one thing: regardless of the fact she could see the future, she still had to be fast enough to dodge his attacks. If he sped up, he might be able to actually hit her. Lunging forward with this thought, Naruto twisted and swung his kunai, Ravager moving back and grimacing as he caught her midriff. "So I was right, she may be fast, but if someone's faster than her, it won't matter how far she can see into the future," Naruto thought while lunging forward once more, swinging the kunai at Ravager as she evaded them, and then blocked them with her swords. Smirking behind his mask, Naruto pushed chakra into his arms, forcing the white-haired girl down to one knee, before he lashed out with a kick to her stomach. Exhaling when he did, Ravager was lifted off the ground before Naruto twisted into another kick to her side, sending her skidding away. Not letting up, Naruto threw his kunai at the girl, and she easily deflected them while flipping back to her feet. Taking a stance, Naruto watched as Ravager lunged at him and blocked her swords before slamming his forehead into her own. Ravager blinked and stumbled back at this, looking more than just a little disorientated before Naruto lashed out with a fist to her gut. Eyes wide, Ravager fell to the ground, dropping her swords before he then twisted into a kick to her head, sending her skidding across the ground. Impressive skills, but special powers and abilities can only take you so far, Naruto told Ravager while walking over to her, the white-haired girl's eye widening as her father's voice overlapped his own for a moment. Reaching down, Naruto grasped Ravager's hair and lifted her up, the girl grabbing his wrists as he glared into her eye. "Now, where is Raven?" he demanded darkly, and Ravager smirked slightly while looking at the blonde-haired teen. "Look behind you, you'll see a warehouse just outside the city. From here she's being held there," Ravager offered, then hissed as Naruto pulled on her silver locks and leaned forward, his single visible eye narrowed angrily. "If anything has happened to her, I swear I'll make you pay," Naruto uttered sinisterly before throwing Ravager to the side, and quickly ran to the edge of the building. Looking into the distance, Naruto narrowed his eyes when he saw the warehouse, and then jumped to the next roof over before rushing off. Ravager smirked as he left, then pushed herself back to her feet and picked up her swords. "Truly amazing," Ravager noted while sheathing her swords, and then smirked slightly while crossing her arms. "And I could almost confuse him for you for a moment, father," she then said to herself before backing up into the shadows, leaving no traces of herself behind. Warehouse. Raven sighed while looking dully at nothing in particular. A frown stretched across her lips, and her arms chained above her head. How many times am I going to be caught by a random psycho for some master scheme? Raven wondered to herself since she'd been caught what felt like a dozen times. Let's see, those weird nanobots from Slade. 1. That time with Atlas. 2. That time with Matt Mod. 3. That time with Brother Blood in Steel City. 4. That time with Professor Chang. 5. The incident with Mother May I. 6. Well, it was quite a few times. And while it was often she was captured with some of the others, it was still annoying. Sighing once more, Raven looked up at her hands and frowned at what she was seeing. A pair of gold rings were placed around each her ring fingers. Each one had red markings along the bands, and gave off a faint glow. Rings of the Tsar, the only way to cancel out my father's or my own dark powers. Raven noted to herself, wondering who had gone to the trouble of finding a pair of these rings, considering their rarity in this dimension, as well as the fact they were original, created by the same order that had imprisoned her so-called father. Though it's odd that they only seem to nullify my more destructive powers, I wonder if I could express my emotions without anything blowing by wearing them. Raven suddenly wondered to herself, thinking of the many benefits that this could bring if it worked. Blinking as a shadow came over her, Raven scowled as Uchiha Sasuke looked down at her. What do you want? Raven questioned flatly, Sasuke kneeling down to look the girl in the face. I'll give the dope one thing, at least his tastes in women have improved. You're neither annoying, nor too fucking talkative. Sasuke stated with a smirk towards her, and Raven scowled deeper while trying to keep from growling. You're lucky my powers aren't working, or you'd learn firsthand exactly what the deepest, darkest, most horrible pits of hell are really like. Raven stated, and Sasuke raised a brow for a moment before scoffing as he stood up with his arms crossed. Am I supposed to be intimidated? Sasuke questioned and then flinched as Raven's eyes both turned a bright red in color. You tell me. She intoned darkly and Sasuke rolled his eyes. You have no power right now. I could probably even kill you if I felt like it, and you wouldn't be able to stop me. Sasuke reminds before grunting as Kakashi placed his hand onto the teen's shoulder while reading his book. Sasuke, why don't you go watch for Naruto? Kakashi ordered and Sasuke brushed the hand from of his shoulder before making his way to the side. Closing her eyes, Raven felt them return to normal, while Kakashi made his way to stand beside her, his back to the wall as he leaned into it while reading. Something I've learned about Sasuke, his sanity is on a hair trigger lately, and I don't want to take any chances. Kakashi explained the unasked question, and Raven snorted while looking at the thick-tempered steel chains holding her to the wall. What sanity? She quipped and Kakashi shrugged his shoulders before returning to his book. So do I get bathroom breaks? Raven then asked and Kakashi blinked, trying hard not to laugh at the question while giving the girl a look. What? She asked seriously and Kakashi stared at the girl before blinking for a moment. It's just normally prisoners don't ask for bathroom breaks. Kakashi responded, and Raven gave him a look in response. What if I really had to use the bathroom? She responded and Kakashi gaped at the girl before shaking his head. You're a strange one. He noted while looking at her with a slight blink of his eyes, and Raven rolled her eyes. You should meet my father. She replied with a small smirk crossing her features at a confused look on Kakashi's face. Shaking his head, the silver-haired man then turned back to his book, watching the girl from the corner of his eyes. He noticed her look up at her hands, not even bothering with the rings. She started messing with her chains, frowning when she noticed their strength. Releasing the chains, she then tried to stand, only to fall to the ground as a chain around her waist held her in a sitting position while her hands were kept in the air and apart from one another. Across the room, Hinata looked at the violet-haired-eyed girl strangely, wondering many things. 1. Why her skin was gray. 2. How her hair was that color. 3. Why she would dress like that. 4. Why she wasn't scared and even emotionless. And 5. She had to wonder how Naruto could like her. Not to say she thought less of the girl, but she just didn't strike her as the type Naruto would like. True, the revelation about his true past left much about Naruto's personality up for debate, but he surely couldn't be that much different. Right? You know, she's not anything like I thought. Ino suddenly said and Hinata yelled, Raven raising a brow as she looked over to the two. What do you mean, Ino-san? Hinata questioned while poking her fingers together, and Ino sighed before crossing her arms. I don't know, it's just something seems off. I mean, I know Ravager said those rings would keep her from using her powers, but why isn't she doing anything to escape? Or even trying to warn Naruto that we're here? Ino explained, and Hinata was silent for a moment before shaking her head, not knowing what to say. Besides that, how many captives are this casual about it? It's like she's been through all this before, and is more annoyed than she is scared. Ino then stated while Hinata poked her fingers together and turned to look at the girl as she looked all around herself, then stared at a strange tube filled with a bright green liquid warily. Maybe she has been captured a lot, she is a hero. Hinata reminded and Ino grunted, before she rubbed her temples with one eye closed. Hero, I hear that word so often in this world. I think of most heroes and even several villains as nothing but a bunch of extremely overpowered bloodline users. Ino admitted, and Hinata gave the blonde-haired girl a look. That's not very nice, Ino-san. They protect their home J just like we do. Hinata reminded, and Ino shrugged her shoulders, before looking back at Raven as she glared at the chain around her waist for a moment, before letting out a sigh and leaned back, almost like she was going to take a nap. "Where is Sakura-sen?" Hinata suddenly asked, and Ino frowned slightly before nudging her head to the side, where Sakura was yawning as she leaned back into a wall, obviously very tired from the dark circles that were starting to form under her eyes. Meanwhile, Naruto landed outside the buildings of Jump City and narrowed his eyes on a warehouse. I wonder why she was being so informative. Something's up, Naruto thought to himself before sighing as he turned his head, eyes looking towards an unseen figure with a dull expression. "Come on out, Donnie, I know you're there," he stated flatly, and blinked when the girl yelped as she appeared floating nearby. Blinking as she looked up at the blonde-haired teen, Donnie managed a nervous chuckle while rubbing the back of her neck for a moment. How long have you known I was following you, sensei?" she questioned, and Naruto crossed his arms with a slightly amused smirk across his lips. "Since we left the HQ," he replied, and Donnie blinked before sighing, mentally saying she needed more stealth training. "And I suppose you want me to head back, right?" she asked her sensei, and Naruto frowned in though for a moment before shaking his head. "Huh?" Donnie asked intelligently, and Naruto chuckled lightly while looking at the girl. "1. Even if I tried to send you back, you just try and follow me again. And 2. Unlike Sasuke team, I realize that having help isn't a sign of weakness. So, just try to keep up," Naruto explained, then said playfully as he turned around before running towards the warehouse, Donnie blinking a few times before following after her sensei. Getting closer to the warehouse, Naruto quickly dodged as a couple Slade commandos jumped from the roof and started to fire on them. "Oh great, more robots," Donnie mumbled while Naruto grabbed, then pulled her to cover while crouching down to avoid a few more shots from the commandos. "So what's the plan, sensei?" Donnie asked while looking up to the orange-masked teen, and Naruto looked at her for a moment before clenching his fists. "We tear these stupid robots apart, of course," Naruto stated, and Donnie blinked before nodding her head slowly, as Naruto threw his right hand to the side, the kusanagi forming from his hand before he lunged forward and into the fray. Blinking, Donnie sighed before holding her hands to the sides, and formed a pair of small green orbs. Clenching her fists over them, a pair of glowing green ethereal blades, as Gizmo called them, formed into her hands. Lashing out, Naruto cut the head from the Slade commando, while then rolling forward and stabbing Kusanagi into another, before twisting on his heel and throwing it into another commando. As he did, he saw Donnie using her ethereal blades to cut through the robots with obvious ease. Shaking his head, Naruto turned, only to blink as an odd new variation of the Slade commandos, having a blue bar down the front of their mask and red eyes as the only difference besides a blue bandolier with a sheath over their torso, jumped from the roof with swords in hand. "Great, now they can use swords as well," Naruto mumbled to himself while Donnie blinked and then looked all around them. Sensei, I think you need to train me to wield a sword better if we survive this," Donnie suddenly noted, and Naruto blinked before nodding his head in agreement as the commandos lunged forward. "Yeah, but no ifs about it, I already know we'll definitely survive," Naruto assured, and Donnie gave him a look before lunging into the fray with the blonde-haired teen. Dodging several swings from the sword-wielding commandos, Naruto then slashed into them, noting that while they were able to use a sword, they didn't seem much different otherwise. Stowing that away for future reference, Naruto ducked under a swing from another of the blade commandos, and then flipped as a Slade commando fired at him. Turning in the air, Naruto sliced the blade commando's head off before throwing a shuriken with an explosive node at the Slade commando. Making a quick seal, the node exploded, taking out about 5 of the commandos, while more of them suddenly jumped at him. Donnie took that moment to throw her swords, thus turning them into her Norm-Lecto blasts, making Naruto raise a brow, as she then fired several more beams to take out the commandos above them. Impressive, so she's figured out how to convert her energy quickly. That will come in handy if I teach her something like Rasengan or something similar, Naruto mused to himself before tilting his body to the side to evade a blade. Frowning, Naruto evaded several more swings before suddenly thrusting the kusanagi into it. Ducking and twisting at the same time, Naruto threw the blade-wielding commando head first into another commando. Watching as Donnie quickly formed 2 more ethereal blades, Naruto made a note to talk to Giz about that video game, where he got the idea for the name for the blades. If he could somehow work how that person used his blades into his style, Donnie could have her own sword style for her blades. Watching as Donnie flipped over a commando, only for one to slam a fist into her chest, thus knocking her back, he also made a quick mental note to get several chakra weights ready for her. Dodging another swing from one of the commando's blades, Naruto turned around and narrowed his eyes at the sheer numbers. And to think I used to use Kage Bunshin like this, Naruto thought to himself while glaring at the proverbial cannon fodder as it came their way. Donnie duck, Naruto suddenly exclaimed, and the girl did as ordered when Naruto suddenly swung Kusanagi, the blade lengthening and cutting dozens of the commandos in half, before he slid to the side slightly, once he was finished with the attack. Seeing that was over, Naruto threw his hand to the side, allowing Kusanagi to reform into his arm, before flipping back to Donnie. Hang on, he ordered as he grabbed her around the waist and then jumped into the air. Forming a quick, single-handed seal, a cage bunchen appeared and nodded its head, while allowing itself to fall to the ground. The clone then formed several seals before suddenly glowing brightly. Once it hit the ground, it exploded while Naruto flipped in the air and landed as the blast slowly subsided, leaving a massive crater in its wake. Wow, now that's what I call going out with a bang. Donnie said with a blink, and Naruto rolled his eyes, then grunted as several more commandos came out of the shadows around them. When do they end? Naruto demanded while rubbing his temples, and Donnie shrugged her shoulders before flying out of his grip while going intangible. Don't know, but head on and get to Raven. I'll deal with them for you, sensei. Donnie offered, and Naruto looked at her silently as she formed a pair of ethereal blades into her hands once more. You sure you can handle them, Donnie? Naruto questioned with a raised eyebrow, and the girl grinned under her mask. Of course, besides, you have someone else to worry about. Donnie reminded, and Naruto silently nodded his head as Donnie flew forward, slicing the first few commandos in her way before twisting and cutting another's head off. Behind her, Naruto watched on silently for a moment, before making his way to the warehouse. The warehouse. I wonder if they know how much of my power is actually sealed with these rings. Raven suddenly wondered to herself after attempting, and surprisingly succeeding, in sending a telepathic message to her friends. Checking her healing powers, Raven wasn't surprised to find those were fine as well, considering they had been taught to her by the temple monks. It wasn't all that surprising. Although, now my soul self and telekinesis, however, those are more directly tied with my dear old dad, and I have more problems controlling them than I do my telepathy or healing. Although, given their function, I might keep these rings, if for nothing else, then to at least seal off some of my more destructive powers on dates where I'd like to feel. Raven thought to herself with a slight scowl before yawning, as she wondered how long it would take for her friends to get to her. Though she was certain that the explosion outside meant a severely pissed Naruto, or at least mildly annoyed, she was starting to get cramps from having her arms up in the air for so long. Looking to Kakashi, aka the worst teacher in all of history as far as she was concerned, Raven idly wondered if he actually thought he could win against a pissed-off Naruto. Mulling over the idea of Naruto being that angry about her being kidnapped briefly made her wonder if he was just a wee bit possessive, which in turn made her remember her demonic attack on Jinx and even Sakura, for the same exact reason she was hyper-possessive of the boy. Do you honestly think you can hold me here for much longer with Naruto at your front door? Raven asked Hatake casually, and Kakashi sighed before turning to the girl and giving her a look. You don't know Naruto very well, do you? If it means the safety of his most precious person, he'd willingly cut his own heart out. Kakashi explained, certain that Naruto wouldn't endanger Raven further. No? You don't know him that well. When I'm in trouble, one or both of two things will happen. A. He'll come save me. B. Whatever got me into trouble will end up dead. Raven stated flatly, and Kakashi blinked before shivering. He had seen what Naruto had done to save her from those plants after all. And just how well do you think you know him? I've known him since the day he was born. Kakashi stated, and Raven gave the silver-haired man a fierce glare, her eyes bleeding slightly red, until she calmed herself. Regardless, what honestly makes you think he'd ever go back to your village? Raven questioned with a raised eyebrow, and Kakashi let out a breath while snapping his book shut and turning his head to her. It's his home, his mother lived and died there, and his father did too. His father died protecting the village, why wouldn't he want to do the same? After so many sacrifices, how can he turn his back on his home? Kakashi questioned the gray-skinned girl, and Raven scowled deeply. Home? You think that place is his home? After being tormented all his life by its villagers? After somebody in your oh so precious little village hired the same assassin that killed his mother, the only person who loved him? After having every memory he had of her sealed away to control him? You honestly think that place is still his home? Raven demanded, and Kakashi scowled beneath his mask, while Sasuke blinked while stowing this information away. Nearby, Ino and Hinata frowned, and Neji looked to see Sakura had a vacant expression. So he's told you about himself? Odd, he's usually not so open with strange girls. Kakashi noted with a slight frown under his mask. It was obvious Naruto was fond of the girl, but this was starting to worry him. Unlike you ninja, we try not to keep secrets from one another, although we each have secrets we respect one another's privacy. Raven replied, and Kakashi scoffed while crossing his arms over his chest. Yeah, I can tell, but I suppose he didn't tell you his biggest secret. Kakashi mused, and Raven frowned at the silver-haired man. Well, how about I tell you a little story then? Kakashi mused before clearing his throat for a moment. Once upon a time, there lived a kitsune with 9 tails. And he was so powerful that whenever he shook those tails, landslides and tsunamis would result. Its name was whispered in infamy and fear among all, Kyuubi no Kitsune. Kakashi started, and Raven frowned, listening despite herself as she was very fond of fairy tale stories and the like. Then, the beast came to a little village known as Konohagakure no Sato, the Hidden Leaf Village. The suffering people gathered the great shinobi clans to fight this menace. Until finally, risking his life, one ninja was able to imprison its very soul. Kakashi continued, and Raven blinked in surprise, though had a pit forming in his gut as she continued to listen. The Yondaime looked to the beast as he rode on the back of the great Gamabunta, the toad summon, calling out, for Konoha, for the future. I will sacrifice my life. The Yondaime sealed the great fox into the belly of a newborn babe whose umbilical had just been cut. Kakashi continued while Raven's eyes widened in shock before it started to make sense. With an ancient jutsu, the Yondaime called forth the power of the Shinigami himself. Unable to ask for anyone else to sacrifice his or her child, the Yondaime used his own newborn son to seal the beast. Allowing the Shinigami to take his soul, the Kyuubi's power was sealed into his son, and the battle finally came to an end. Kakashi further explained to the violet-haired girl as something Naruto said rang in her mind. What my father did, he was actually loved for it. Whitening her eyes, Raven grit her teeth as Kakashi continued his story, now seemingly lost in memories. Having defeated the demon, the brave shinobi died. That shinobi was the Yondaime Hokage, the fourth fire shadow, champion of Konohagakure no Sado. Kakashi finished while the ninja around them listened in shock, Sasuke and Sakura looking at the man strangely, since that wasn't really information he should be revealing to the enemy. I suppose you think I'll be afraid of Naruto now, or even angry that he never told me? Raven asked dully, and Kakashi blinked as the girl frowned towards the silver-haired man. What you fail to realize, however, is that none of that matters to me. Demon, human, angel, or god, I don't really care. It's not what he is that love, it's who he is. Raven stated simply, and Kakashi blinked for a few moments while looking at the girl. Well, that wasn't really my intent. I was only trying to show you that there are things that you don't understand about Naruto. Kakashi mused mostly to himself, only to duck as a kunai nearly hit him in the face, Naruto crashing through a window, and quickly flashing over to Kakashi, visibly shaking in rage. Oh, give it a rest already, Kakashi Nobaka. Naruto growled before grabbing Kakashi by his throat, and then slammed his back into the wall behind him. Grabbing the blonde-haired teen's wrist with his eyes wide as a single blood-red eye glared out of the eye-hole of his orange spiral mask. Let him go. Neji suddenly shouted at Naruto, and the blonde turned to look at him with a glare. What for? So he can try and hurt Kar-chan to get me to go back with you? Naruto questioned, and Neji frowned while taking his stance, Sasuke smirking as he unsheathed his Chakatsu. Finally, Sasuke said with a smirk as he lunged at Naruto, swinging his Chakatsu at the blonde youth. Growling, Naruto threw Kakashi to the side and blocked the Chakatsu with the plates on his gloves. Teen, I'm seriously not in the mood to deal with you right now. Naruto growled out before kicking Sasuke in the gut, sending him flying back while Neji came at him from behind. Twisting out of the way of a Gyuken strike, Naruto then elbowed Neji in the face, while Sakura ran at him and jumped into the air. Bearing her hand back, the Pincat then slammed her fist into the ground. Naruto, jumping back to evade, placed his hands onto a chunk of rock, as the floor was shattered from Sakura's inhuman strength. Boy, how do I always wind up in situations like this? Naruto wondered to himself before grabbing Neji's wrist as he tried to hit him with a Gyuken strike, and quickly threw him into Sakura. Ducking down as Kakashi came at him, swinging a kunai, Naruto narrowed his eyes while twirling around and knocking the silver-haired man to the ground. Flipping back to his feet, Naruto ducked to the side to evade a thrust from Sasuke's Chakatsu, before kneeing him in the gut, and then backflipped into a kick to the Uchiha's. Landing in a crouch, Naruto looked around as the nin got back to their feet and mentally cursed. Raven was too close to use any of his more destructive techniques. Not only that, but the building could collapse if he wasn't careful. Shit, someone else planned all this. The Ravager, no doubt, and thus took all my jutsu and skills into consideration for how things would go down. Naruto realized before flipping up, one hand on Kakashi's shoulder as he evaded a swing from both Kakashi and Sasuke, twirling on one arm Naruto, then slammed their heads into one another's before landing and rolling out of the way, as Sakura brought her leg down in a drop kick. Nearby, Ino and Hinata watched the fighting silently, Hinata chewing on her lip with obvious worry. Please be safe, Naruto-kun. Hinata thought while Ino watched the fight as Naruto evaded several more attacks, also seeming to lead the others away from Raven as he did. Clever, he doesn't want Raven hurt, so he's trying to get them a distance from her. Ino noted, still wishing someone would be that considerate for her safety, especially given that he had fought his way through an entire city filled with mutant plants for the girl. Naruto-kun has always been unpredictable, Ino-san. Hinata reminded, and Ino nodded her head with a slight smile before turning back to the battle. Naruto raising his arms to block two blows, grabbing the fist of Sakura and Kakashi at the same time with his single visible eye, glowing an eerie red. Oh, that's not good. Ino whispered as Naruto jerked his head to look at Kakashi before jumping up with both him and Sakura. Roaring out, Naruto then threw Sakura at Sasuke before then throwing Kakashi to the ground. Bearing back a fist as he fell to the ground, Naruto then slammed it into Kakashi's sternum, digging the man into the ground slightly. Raising his hands a millisecond later and knocking Neji's fist out of the way of hitting him as well, Naruto then turned and rammed his shoulder into the teen, knocking him back. Narrowing his eyes, Naruto then vanished as Sasuke swung his Chakatsu at him, the blonde now standing on the ceiling above them, arms crossed. Growling, Sasuke narrowed his eyes on the blonde as he made a simple command gesture with one hand. Gritting his teeth, Sasuke grinned while forming several familiar hand seals before taking a deep breath. Breathing out, Sasuke sent a fireball flying towards the blonde-haired teen, only for him to vanish once more. Appearing behind a surprised Sasuke while forming the Kusanagi from his hand and swinging the blade at the Uchiha. Cursing, Sasuke rolled out of the way, while Naruto then ducked his Kakashi through a kunai at his head. Narrowing his eyes, Naruto then swung his arm and sword, wind forming off of his body, and pushing the nin away from him briefly. Once he was allowed that moment of reprieve from the all-out assault, Naruto quickly formed several Kage Bunshin, each with a Kusanagi of its own, and motioned for them to deal with the other nin, while he walked towards Sasuke. Smirking at this, Sasuke stood up and squared off against Naruto, circling one another like hawks. Madara said it would come to this though we are destined to face one another in battle. Sasuke reminded and Naruto was silent while merely glaring at Sasuke silently. But he was wrong about one thing, I'm not going to fight you because of any revenge. Sasuke then said and Naruto raised a brow before leaning Kusanagi into his right shoulder with a thin frown. Oh really? I find that hard to believe, team. Naruto noted and Sasuke scoffed before taking a stance with his blade, Naruto casually standing opposite him. It shouldn't be, I'm not fighting for revenge. I'm fighting you out of hate, pure and simple. I hate you, I hate that you're stronger than me, I hate that you killed Madara, but most of all, I absolutely hate that you can somehow find happiness and acceptance when all I've ever found is more reasons to hate. Sasuke roared out while lunging forward, swinging his Chakatsu at Naruto who merely raised a hand and caught the blade with one hand. Sasuke then growled as Naruto started to laugh, clearly amused by the Uchiha's words. So that's it all this time, you've just been jealous of me. To think, team. Naruto mused to himself with a quiet chuckle, Sasuke snarling as he tried to press down with his Chakatsu. I truly pity you, Uchiha Sasuke. You can no more find happiness than you can beat me. You're trapped in the past, your body is all that exists in the present, and that is why you cannot find happiness. If you truly wish to be happy, then forget the past and move forward with your life already. Naruto stated darkly and Sasuke roared, Naruto throwing his sword to the side, before turning with a kick to the young Uchiha's back, knocking him forward. Besides, it's not like there's anything left for you to hate. Your brother is dead, as is Danzo and Madara, you've only got your foolish hatred left to live for, and nothing to direct it at is slowly driving you insane. Naruto noted with a shake of his head, while Sasuke growled angrily towards the blonde-haired teen. Not only that, but your precious Mangekyou Sharingan is all but useless to you, unless you wish to go blind. So stop this stupid violence and move on already, team. Naruto then told the Uchiha flatly, while Sasuke merely snarled once more and formed a few quick hand seals. I'll show you dope. Chidori Nagashi. Sasuke exclaimed while lunging at Naruto swinging his Chakatsu as it was imbued with the energy of his lightning. Dodging the wild attack with ease, Naruto merely moved to one side, and then tripped Sasuke, smirking as the teen slammed a fist into the ground before getting back to his feet and lunging at him once more. Taking a quick step back to evade being sliced open by Sasuke's Chakatsu, Naruto then swung the Kusanagi up, Sasuke rolling to the side to evade it, his eyes twitching. Face it, team, you're not powerful enough to stop me, even with all your hate, you're still too weak. Naruto said with a shake of his head, Sasuke's eyes widening in fury before breathing through his gritted teeth. I'll show you I won't be humiliated by a dope like you any longer. Sasuke exclaimed before opening his eyes, revealing his Sharingan at last, as he then formed several hand seals. Breathing in he then unleashed a fireball straight for Naruto, the blonde blinking then turning to see it would hit the others. So you still don't think beyond killing what you hate, I see, well then maybe I should just carve out those eyes of yours, so you won't see what you hate anymore. Naruto noted the muse darkly with a frown before swinging Kusanagi up and throwing it into the air before grabbing and swinging it down. The swing caused the air to create a vacuum, the vacuum quickly extinguishing the fireball Sasuke had created. However, the black-haired teen then appeared in front of Naruto and grinned as his eyes took on a red atom shape within the black of his eyes. Amaterasu. He exclaimed and Naruto's eyes widened before he dodged out of the way of the black flames, and then took a quick breath in relief, while Sasuke's scowl deepened. Concentrating, he caused the flames to turn and lash out at Naruto, the youth cursing as he quickly got out of the way as it shot into the ground, Naruto landing in a low crouch and frowning at Sasuke. Has he already forgotten that if he uses his Sharingan too extensively he'll go blind? Or maybe he just doesn't care anymore. Naruto wondered, then mused to himself while Sasuke then lunged at him once more, swinging his Chakatsu in a wide arc. Ducking under the attack, Naruto twirled Kusanagi for a moment before lashing out, sending its blade flying up at Sasuke. Narrowing his eyes, Sasuke formed a field of black fire before his body. However, it slowly cut through the flames, and Sasuke's eyes widened, blood slowly trailing down like tears from his left eye, before he flipped away from the blade. Swinging Kusanagi to the side, Naruto mentally smirked, thanking Kami he managed to get his hands on the legendary blade. Gritting his teeth, Sasuke looked around for something to give him an advantage against Naruto before looking up. Grinning even as he cried bloody tears, Sasuke was surrounded by what felt like an unholy purple chakra that slowly started to form into something around him. What is this abominable energy? The blonde wondered until a skeletal half-muscled monster of some kind appeared around the young Uchiha and roared lowly. The black flames of Amaterasu then wrapped around Susanoo and Naruto, made a note to figure out why the Mangekyo had attacks that all seemed to be named after gods, while preparing for anything from this new development. Behold, the third power of the Mangekyo Sharingan, Dobe. The power only available with both of my eyes. Susanoo. Sasuke exclaimed as the skeletal creature reached up and slammed its hand into the roof. Looking up in shock, Naruto then looked around and flashed over to Raven before wrapping his arms around Raven while digging the Kusanagi into the ground. Kakashi however looked at Sasuke with wide eyes as the roof suddenly came down on top of him. Are you mad you're going to crush us all? He shouted while Sasuke merely watched Naruto as he placed himself over Raven. Neji cursed before flipping up and bouncing up along debris, Naruto's clones doing the same. Sakura used her strength and broke any rubble that might have came down on her, while Kakashi flipped from rock to rock like most of the others. Hinata and Ino were the only two who were far enough away from Sasuke that the roof didn't cave in on them, Ino's eyes wide in shock. What the hell Hinata, do you feel that? The blonde asked and Hinata nodded, a cold chilling feeling starting to fill the room, like something was sapping all warmth from them. It's coming from Uchiha-san. Hinata reported and Ino blinked, and then noticed the girl had her Byakugan active. His chakra isn't normal, it's thick, and it seems like it saps heat from the air. Hinata reported while Ino looked at Sasuke, her eyes showing her unease with that tidbit of information, as Sasuke watched the rubble fall on top of Naruto. Finally, he's finally dead. Sasuke whispered as the roof slowly stopped falling, and the other nin managed to calm down. However, Sasuke then frowned as the cage bunching around them were still fine, each having managed to evade damage. But as the Dobe were dead, they wouldn't be here. Sasuke said to himself before watching his rubble exploded up, and Naruto pushed himself up, Raven having her eyes closed before looking around and breathing a sigh of relief. Too close. Raven whispered and Naruto nodded his head before turning to look at Sasuke with a glare. Meanwhile, nearby, Sakura looked at Sasuke with no small amount of fear, as he started to seethe visibly in his rage, the monster around him slowly forming a sword in its hand. Teach this can be Sasuke-kun, he's not like this, it was all moderate. Sakura said to herself with wide eyes, while Leonie nearly pulled her hair out inside of her mind, before deciding to give her other self a wake-up call. Damn it you blind-ass stupid excuse for a fangirl. Would you finally just wake up and get a fucking clue? That is what your oh so precious Uchiha really is. Leonie screamed in her mind while Sakura shook her head slowly, trying desperately to deny it. Behind her however, one of Naruto's clones landed and then landed a head to the back of her neck. The girl slowly swayed for a moment before suddenly falling forward and hitting the ground, thus leaving her unconscious while the clone flipped back and slid into the shadows to wait for its next chance to strike an opponent. The other two clones wasted no time in attacking Kakashi and Neji, not allowing them even a small moment to catch their breaths, while Naruto and Sasuke stared one another down. This is getting more and more dangerous for Kard-chan. Sasuke is starting to sink back into the darkness, well, further into the darkness. I have to put a stop to him while I still can. Naruto thought to himself before flipping Kusanagi into a reverse grip, the blade shortening down accordingly. Raven, no matter what happens, don't try and interfere. Naruto whispered, and Raven gave him a look in response. I'm kind of chained to the wall, not like I could even if I wanted to. She reminded, yet Naruto remained silent for a moment before turning to look at Sasuke. You've certainly learned nothing, Sasuke, especially if you're still relying on the power of your cursed Mangekyo Sharingan to get you through fights. Naruto noted while Sasuke scoffed, growling mentally as Naruto's mask made it impossible to look into both of his eyes. The Dobe must have realized that, and is using it to his advantage to stop me from using Genjutsu. Sasuke noted while gripping the Chakatsu in his hand tightly. What's that supposed to mean? You're the one who's got a demon's power coursing through his veins. The Mangekyo Sharingan is no more cursed than your own cursed powers, Dobe. Sasuke retorted and Naruto tilted his head for a moment before sighing, as he made 5 quick hand seals behind his back, so Sasuke wouldn't see them. I had really hoped I'd never have to use this particular jutsu. But given that I can no longer get close to you, it seems that I have no other choice. Naruto mused while concentrating his chakra and opened his eyes. Wind release. God of Wind Jutsu. Naruto exclaimed as wind flowed all around his body before visibly forming into blades along his body, the longest of the blades arching off his forearms and shins, forming into claws over his hands and feet, as well as wisps off his back and shoulders. What is this? Sasuke demanded while Naruto chuckled in his throat as the wind spiraled around his body. Did you honestly believe all my wind techniques were going to be seal-less blade techniques, team? Well, this one is special in that it's a wind jutsu that augments taijutsu. It's like the Raikage's lightning armor in that effect, only it basically just coats my entire body in wind chakra, allowing me to guide wind, and thus hit opponents without having to touch them. thus giving me a way around your damn Amaterasu Shider Susanoo. Naruto explained, simply, a hand on his hip, while Sasuke grit his teeth, while glaring furiously at the blonde. Where do you come up with all these stupid jutsu of yours? Sasuke demanded, and Naruto tilted his head to one side, before chuckling in his throat. What do you think I was doing the year I stayed in the hive team? Went to class and studied like a good little student. Besides, my control of wind is based off of this jutsu. This jutsu is basically a refined, perfected version of my normal wind control. Naruto stated with a smirk, and Sasuke roared while having Susanoo form a sword out of Amaterasu's flames, and quickly lash out at the blonde. Quickly Naruto moved out of the way, with his speed being augmented by the wind chakra, as it literally put an extra spring in his step. Seeing this, Sasuke's eyes bolted open as he tried to follow Naruto, and sent some Amaterasu flames towards him. Flipping back to avoid the flames, Naruto spun in the air, a blade of wind instantly arching from his foot and flying towards Sasuke. Widening his eyes, Sasuke flipped back to avoid the attack, and then rolled to the side, as Naruto flipped in the air and lashed out with a hand, wind forming from his air claws and arching towards him. Gritting his teeth, Sasuke had Susanoo lash out with his sword at the blonde once more, only to gape as he jumped into the air, high enough that he then spun for a moment, before kicking towards Sasuke, unleashing a miniature tornado from his leg that swirled towards the young Uchiha. Ducking out of the way once more, Sasuke had Susanoo swing his sword at Naruto once more while he was in the air. Chuckling, the blonde held his hands to the side, Naruto twisting in the air for a moment to evade Susanoo, and then made 4 quick hand seals. Soon finishing, Naruto held his hands together as Sasuke glared at him furiously. Raiden. Flash Bomb, Jutsu. Naruto called out as a bright flash of light came from his body and temporarily blinded Sasuke, causing him to stumble back and out of Susanoo's protective area. Grinning as the young Uchiha got into position, Naruto made it to the ground quickly, before lunging at Sasuke as Susanoo dissipated. Sasuke slowly opened his eyes as he did, only for Naruto to slam a fist into his face, the wind around his arm spiraling out, and propelling him away from the blonde. Moving quickly, Naruto slid under Sasuke, before twisting onto his back, and then kicking Sasuke into the air. Pushing himself up and jumping after Sasuke, Naruto then slammed his fist into the Uchiha's stomach, before quickly spinning into a kick that sent Sasuke flying into the ground. Panting, Sasuke looked down at himself and saw how wherever Naruto had hit him, cuts and lacerations were appearing. That stupid jutsu, it's allowing him to cut me without using his sword. Sasuke realized while gritting his teeth in outrage, the blonde youth looking towards him as he got back up. I'll show him, I'll make him pay. Sasuke's thought before he formed the seals for a fireball jutsu, then breathed it out towards Naruto. The blonde in question chuckled in his throat before twisting and swinging Kusanagi, creating a vacuum that dissipated the fireball almost instantly. Growling, Sasuke then lunged at Naruto, swinging his Chakatsu wildly at the blonde, as he moved with unreal speed and grace, while evading the attack altogether. Soon tired of this, Naruto dug a foot into the ground and raised his left arm up, stopping Sasuke's Chakatsu with the metal plate on the back of his glove. Pressing down, Sasuke tried to slip off the plate, so he could take the blonde's hand off, only for him to force his hand up, knocking Sasuke off balance long enough for Naruto to slam a fist into the Uchiha's stomach, sending him flying back from the combination of physical strength and wind chakra slamming into his body. Slamming into a wall, Sasuke fell to one knee, before looking up as Naruto shook his head, amusement clearly wafting off of his body. How are you doing this? Sasuke demanded angrily, and Naruto simply shrugged his shoulders for a moment. Damn you dope, I won't allow you to do this. Sasuke stated while slowly standing up, and Naruto froze before narrowing his eyes on the young Uchiha dangerously. Honestly team, would you just shut the fuck up about your kami damned hate already? Naruto demanded while pulling all the wind chakra from around his body and lunged forward, focusing it all into his right arm. Because I really don't care anymore right now, all I want you to do is leave me the hell alone. Naruto exclaimed while slamming his fist into Sasuke, a tornado forming from his arm before slamming into the Uchiha, before pushing him back into, and then through a wall into the desert outside. Relaxing his stance once the attack was finished, Naruto then turned to where his clones were still dealing with Kakashi, and briefly swooned to one side as he came out of his Fusion no Jutsu. Damn thing still eats up chakra like nobody's business. I really need to figure out a way to fix that. Naruto thought to himself, since though the technique was useful, it left even his reserves fairly drained after a prolonged period. Shaking his head of these thoughts, Naruto ran towards Kakashi before forming 4 clones at his side, and watching as they slide forward and under the man. You? One called out while kicking up. Zu. The next exclaimed while doing the same. Ma. The third exclaimed while the final one came up with a grin under his mask. Kai. The clone finished as they all hit Kakashi and sent him up into the air. Naruto then lunged forward and jumped up off one of the clones' backs, flipping in the air before flipping and kicking Kakashi in the chest, sending him flying down into the ground. Naruto rending. Naruto himself finished as he came down on top of Kakashi, causing the man to groan before he flipped off of him, and swayed for a moment before the clones went over to him. The clones then concentrated and returned their chakra to him, vanishing in mere shimmers of energy, while Naruto turned towards where Neji was facing off against his final clone and ran towards him. Seeing the blonde coming at him, Neji prepared to attack only for Naruto to vanish in a plume of smoke before appearing behind the Hyuga. Twisting into a kick, Naruto slammed his foot into the side of Neji's head, sending him skidding away, before he rolled to a stop before where Hinata and Ino were both watching on with wide eyes. So this is what a real cage-level shinobi is capable of, incredible. Ino thought to herself while gaping in astonishment, while Hinata managed a slight smile, feeling proud of Naruto's obvious growth, despite him not being with Konoha. However, that smile faded as Sasuke made his way back into the warehouse, panting and visibly bleeding, while forming a silent Amaterasu that headed towards Naruto from behind. "Naruto-kun, behind you." Hinata called out and Naruto turned, and then lunged out of the way of the attack, his clone being hit, and thus dispelled by it, while Naruto rolled into a crouch. Growling, Sasuke gave a glare to Hinata before turning back to Naruto, as he slowly rose back up to his feet. "Why would you just die already?" Sasuke demanded as he lunged at Naruto while swinging his Chakatsu, the blonde frowning before lunging at him as well and swinging Kusanagi. Seeing this, Sasuke widened his eyes before quickly swinging his Chakatsu to block, only for Kusanagi to slice through it easily. Sasuke's eyes widened upon seeing this, and he then gaped as Naruto then slammed a fist into his gut. Leaning back, Naruto then punched Sasuke in the gut once more, lifting him off the ground from the force of his attack. Backing away from Naruto with wide eyes, Sasuke wrapped his arms around his waist before falling to his knees, obviously in pain. Preparing to use another Mangekyo technique, Sasuke wasn't given the chance as Naruto quickly grabbed him by the throat and lifted him into the air, keeping his eyes away from Sasuke's line of sight. Throwing Sasuke forward, Naruto then threw a familiar three-pointed kunai at the youth, which the Uchiha rolled out of the way of while coming into a crouch on the ground. Looking up from his position on the ground, Kakashi saw the kunai, and his eyes widened greatly for a moment, while Naruto suddenly vanished. "Hiraishin no Jutsu," he exclaimed loudly while appearing behind Sasuke. Naruto came down in a drop kick to Sasuke's skull, the other teen's eyes widening in shock as his head was slammed into the ground, and Naruto landed in a low crouch. Cracking his neck as he got up, Naruto fell to one knee while panting, grunting in discomfort at the amount of chakra he just used to take out the Konoha flunkies. Alright, maybe not flunkies, but they are annoying as hell at least. Naruto thought to himself while pushing himself back to his feet. Cracking his knuckles, he made his way over to Sasuke with a scowl. Looking down at Sasuke, Naruto reached down before lifting the Uchiha up, and glared at him without looking at his eyes. "Impressive, you all actually managed to wear me out. Impressive at the very least. I haven't had a fight tire me out this bad in quite a while, that stupid plant invasion notwithstanding." Naruto muttered to himself before throwing Sasuke to the side, as he looked around the room, noting that only Ino and Hinata were still standing, and they had been the only ones not fighting. Noticing Kakashi pushing himself to his knees, Naruto shook his head as the man barely managed to look at him from his position on the ground. "And to think, you were the ones who thought you could take Kara-chan to force me to go back with you. Well, at least you know better than to try that now." Naruto noted with a shake of his head before turning his head as the doors suddenly burst open, the Titans finally arriving. "Everybody freeze," Nightwing ordered while Naruto gave him a look before walking over to Raven. "Well, I don't think you needed any help here, Rich," Kid Flash noted while looking at the sheer level of destruction around the room, and shivered violently, mentally promising to never make a pass at Raven again. Sighing, the former boy wonder pinched the bridge of his nose while pulling several explosive discs from his belt. "Alright, then everyone else, freeze," Nightwing amended while Naruto crouched next to Raven and took a look at her chains. Using the Kusanagi, Naruto then snapped the chains before allowing the sword to become a part of him once more. "Took them long enough to get here," Naruto thought to himself while helping Raven up to her feet, and she rolled her eyes with slight frown. "It's not like anyone could lead them here, you know," she reminded, and Naruto had to give her that while Ino and Hinata came out of the shadows. "Yo," he said, "freeze, and in case y'all don't know, that means don't move," Cyborg called out while Sasuke pushed himself to his feet, eyes filled with hate as they glared towards Naruto furiously. "Alright, now you're all coming with us, either peacefully or we'll be forced to," Nightwing started to say while Sasuke made 3 quick hand seals, with his eyes widened and glaring at Naruto furiously. "Dope. I wouldn't be beaten by you this time, nor ever again," he exclaimed as lightning arched over his fist, the sounds of birds chirping in the air, before he launched himself forward. "Sasuke, no," Kakashi cried out as Sasuke moved faster than any of the Titans could react, reaching the other side of the room mere seconds later. Seeing Sasuke, Naruto immediately saw that he wasn't aiming for him. "Wait, if he's not trying to hit me, then who?" Naruto wondered for only a moment before his eyes widened, and he quickly pushed Raven out of the way of the attack, taking the Chidori through the chest as it burst through him, and slammed into the tank behind him. Instantly a strange green slime burst out of the tank and all over the three. Naruto then formed a quick Rasengan, before slamming it into Sasuke's stomach, sending him flying back before Naruto fell to his knees, and holding his wounded shoulder. Naruto. Raven exclaimed worriedly while the blonde spat up some blood into his mask that had somehow worked its way into his mouth. Naruto-kun, Hinata said with wide eyes while Ino had to hold her back and then glared at Sasuke, wondering what in the nine hells she'd ever seen in the psycho. Dude. Beast Boy exclaimed while Starfire gasped, then formed her Starballs, and Cyborg aimed his Sony cannon at the other conscious Nin. Great Sasuke, get us into even more trouble, why don't you? Kakashi growled out angrily to himself while looking for some way out of this new predicament. Given that they were in a small space, that wasn't looking very good at the moment. Not only that, but Naruto's clones had been surprisingly tough and had worn all but 2 of them out. And those 2 wouldn't be all that effective against the combined abilities of the Teen Titans. What do we do, Rob? Cyborg asked and Nightwing narrowed his eyes, the unmoving Sasuke posing no threat for the moment. Take them in, of course. And if they resist in any way, I'm fully authorizing you all the right to restrain them painfully. Knight responded darkly while the Titans made their way over to the weakened ninja, Starfire hurrying over to Raven and Naruto as he hacked up blood while holding the open wound in his shoulder. We have to get him back to the tower to try and heal his wounds, now. Raven said urgently, worry clear in her voice, and Nightwing nodded his head while looking at them from the corner of his eye. Starfire, you go with Raven and see if you can help him, we'll deal with these guys. Nightwing ordered and Starfire reluctantly nodded while helping Naruto up, Raven quickly pulling the rings from her fingers. Stuffing them into the shadow space of her cloak, she then wrapped her cloak around herself, Naruto, and Starfire, before quickly pulling them to Titan's tower. Meanwhile, Kakashi sighed while surveying the area, seeing no way that he could possibly escape without leaving one or more of the others behind. He raised his hands in surrender. Not putting up a fight? Nightwing questioned while slapping a pair of cuffs over his wrists, and Kakashi shrugged his shoulders. No point. He responded while a half-conscious Sasuke rolled onto his side, and then tried to push himself to his feet. Growling, Donna stomped over to the dark-haired youth before placing her boot onto his back, and then pushing him to the ground, and digging her heel into his back, causing him to grunt in pain. Down, boy. Donna said mockingly, though with no trace of humor in her tone however, as Sasuke tried to glare at the girl. Kid Flash checked around the room, making sure there was no traps or hidden surprises waiting for them, before giving an okay to Nightwing who nodded his head, and then motioned for the others to follow him. Meanwhile, Neji was gathered up by Cyborg along with Sakura, both being slung over his shoulders, before he glared at the single-eyed Kakashi. You better pray Naruto's gonna be alright, man. Cyborg suddenly growled out darkly, the unsaid threat registering to Kakashi. To think Naruto you've even got friends like these here. Kakashi thought to himself before motioning for Ino and Hinata to follow them. Donna then wrapped her lasso around Sasuke, and literally dragged the Uchiha behind her with Beast Boy at her side, unusually quiet. Walking out of the warehouse, Kakashi blinked when he noticed several silver spheres on the ground. Did you leave those there? He asked Nightwing who looked down, only for knockout gas to suddenly spray out of them. Shit. Night called out while covering his mouth, only to be hit from behind as the others didn't react in time. The commando was left standing behind each the Titans, while the Nin fell unconscious due to the gas and their own exhaustion. Dumping to the ground behind the commandos was none other than Ravager, a gas mist worn over her face. Secure the ninja. She ordered of the commandos before crossing her arms as she shook her head while looking down at Sasuke. Idiot, I need him alive. You best hope you haven't ruined any chance I had of my plans working. She grumbled while kicking the unconscious youth. Sighing, she then snapped her fingers, several more of her commandos dropping down before collecting the Konoha ninja. They've all but proved themselves useless to my needs, especially the Uchiha brat, but I could still probably find some small use for them. Ravager mused to herself while walking away, her commandos following her with the Nin over their shoulders. As they made their way from the warehouse, Ravager made a quick mental note to find out what that green shit Sasuke, Naruto, and Raven got covered in was. And she also made a note to get a smoke when she got back to base. It had been a very stressful day, and she felt she deserved one for putting up with so much failure, though if she'd been more careful, she might have noticed a pair of glowing green eyes, as Donnie watched her leave, then looked down at the Titans for a moment before sighing. She really hated tough choices. Titan's Tower. Raven landed in Titan's Tower, more importantly, the infirmary, and quickly set about working around the room. Friend Raven, what should I do to help you? Starfire asked worriedly while holding up Naruto, the blonde slipping in and out of consciousness, due to the heavy amount of blood loss he'd suffered. Lay Naruto down and get his shirt off to start with Starfire. I need to see the extent of the damage that idiot did to him before I can do anything. Raven said quickly while trying mostly to calm her raging emotions, most of which were for once in complete agreement with Wrath, in wanting to gut Sasuke alive. However, at the moment, that wasn't productive as she'd need to concentrate, if she wanted to be able to heal her friend, and not do more harm than good. Hearing what Raven needed, Starfire went to work on removing Naruto's spiral mask, then his headband, then his bandolier, and finally his shield. However, upon seeing the fist-sized hole in the side of his chest, just barely missing his heart, part of which she could actually see in the hole, the girl turned visibly green. Friend Raven, I have done the removing of his shirt for you. Starfire offered meekly, and Raven quickly turned to see what the damage was and turned green as well for a moment. Please let me be able to help with this. Raven thought to herself before taking a breath and placing her hands over the wound. Concentrating on her healing powers, Raven's hands were covered in a blue glow over his wound. Grunting in his sleep, Naruto groaned for a moment while the wound started to steam slightly, red energy pulling within the wound, before spiraling around its edges as it helped seal it up. Noticing this, Raven frowned for only a moment before quickly realizing what it was based on Kakashi's little story. Kyuubi, it doesn't want to die, and if you do, take it with you, so it's going to keep you alive as long as it needs to. Raven noted to herself, easily knowing what that felt like. I think we're almost too much alike, Naruto. But like I told that idiot pervert, I'm not going to leave you over something like that. Raven thought to herself while concentrating her powers and working on the wound. What a most interesting development. A familiar four-eyed demon mused, while Kyuubi frowned towards its compatriot. Interesting. How can you say that when my host is dying? Kyuubi demanded with a low growl, and the other being chuckled lightly for a moment. And what do you find so funny, Trigun? Kyuubi demanded once more, and the four-eyed being chuckled once more before grinning at the kitsune. Haven't you noticed something odd inside your host? Trigun questioned of the kitsune, and it raised a brow, before narrowing his eyes, a grin spreading across his muzzle as he noticed what Trigun did. Ah, now I see what you mean. Yes, this could indeed be most interesting, especially if this were to affect your darling daughter as well. Kyuubi mused to himself with a grin spread over his lips, and Trigun nodded his head in agreement. I know it will. And once it takes hold of them both, it will be most interesting to see what their inner demons will do to their so-called friends. Trigun noted aloud, and Kyuubi nodded his head with a light chuckle before narrowing his eyes for a moment. What of our plan? We are soon to escape our prisons, surely we shouldn't wait. Kyuubi reasoned, and Trigun was silent for only a moment, before chuckling in his throat as he pulled his power from a glowing figure within a subterranean cave. True, but I'd rather like to enjoy this show. And my plan can only fully take hold on my daughter's birthday. We still have plenty of time before that will come to pass. Trigun reminded, and Kyuubi grumbled under his breath for a moment before closing his eyes and vanishing. Remaining for a brief moment, Trigun chuckled in his throat before vanishing as well to watch the show. Thanks for listening. I do hope you enjoyed. If you want the next part of this video, like, subscribe, and comment down below, and turn on that bell notification, and also check out the other videos that I have created and enjoy. See you in the next video. Peace.